Liberals will do literally anything to spite President Trump, even now if it means hurting themselves or their unborn babies, because now you have mentally ill white women chugging Tylenol somehow to get back at Trump, orange man bad, because he revealed a possible link to autism. Okay. Creating a dangerous situation for your baby to own President Trump. Alrighty then, we'll get into that. I'm talking with a doctor about these new findings, plus looking at some of the other potential causes of autism. Oh, they went there, and we're going to dive in. It starts right now. Welcome to Sara Gonzales Unfiltered. Just a little breaking news to get out of the way. Ryan Ruth was found guilty on all charges of trying to assassinate President Trump. Now, you may remember this is the guy who was super crazy, really crazy, who was set up outside Trump's golf course in Florida. And then he was stopped by Secret Service. There was gunfire that was exchanged, I believe. And he was charged with attempting to assassinate a major presidential candidate and assaulting a federal officer, and then several firearm violations. Pretty quick deliberation, 2 hours. And by the way, I mentioned before that he's a crazy person. When they read that he was guilty, he apparently, according to reporters who were in the courtroom, tried to stab himself with a pen. Which tracks. That tracks. He's facing life in prison. I say, good riddance. You deserve it. Now, you guys are going to be shocked to hear that the guy who tried to use, remember, we had this on the show, the guy who tried to use the example that he was peaceful. He would never do something like that. He was peaceful. Let me prove to you that I'm peaceful. I'd like to invite my ex-lover on the stand to tell you that when we were having sex, I never slapped her around. That's how you know I'm peaceful. I'm shocked to hear that the guy who used that excuse was found guilty. Boy, wow. That's real shocking news. So we'll find out what his sentencing is whenever it happens. But obviously, there was a huge press conference yesterday with RFK Jr. and President Trump. And it was billed as this, the autism conference. I know when I was at the memorial for Charlie and President Trump said then, we've got big news on autism coming up this week. And so this was that big announcement. And we heard ahead of time that it was just supposed to be about Tylenol. Let's hear what President Trump had to say. Watch.
Tylenol during pregnancy can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. All right, I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary.
Now, I don't know if the libs actually understand this. This isn't President Trump with a lab coat on going and doing some, half-baked study because he doesn't know what he's doing and then coming out and saying, I found out that Tylenol is bad. Don't take it. This was an actual, these are actual people who know what they're doing, who are saying something that, by the way, should not be controversial because they've been doing studies on it for a very long time, that there are risks to taking Tylenol while pregnant. But the libs are so broken by President Trump. I would like to display for you example 4,055,400, if that's even a number that I just said, of mentally ill white women, liberal mentally ill white women just being absolutely batshit crazy. Now they are actively going against the recommendations of the scientific community because orange man bad. Here we go. Here's me, a pregnant woman, taking Tylenol because I believe in science and not someone who has no medical background. Oh, but you just... What's that say, Control? I can't read it. Oh, there it is. How I'm taking Tylenol after Trump's announcement. Okay? These people are hearing from the scientific community that you might be harming your baby, and they're taking it anyway. That's deranged. abuse your baby to own the cons, right? Like, this is crazy. But the White House is, I want to be clear here. There are a lot of people in the MAHA community who were very upset reading this announcement. I don't think that they watched the press conference if they're still upset, because I think what President Trump did was he took this Tylenol announcement and he sprinkled in a sneak peek at what is to come, because this a press conference quickly turned into talking about the fact that we are still looking at the potential risks when it comes to, vaccines. Here is RFK Jr. on that.
We are continuing to investigate a multiplicity of potential causes with no areas of taboo. One area that we are closely examining, as the president mentioned, is vaccines. Some 40 to 70% of mothers who have children with autism believe that their child was injured by a vaccine. President Trump believes that we should be listening to these mothers instead of gaslighting and marginalizing them like prior administrations. Some of our friends like to say that we should believe all women. But some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades. Because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists.
I want to be clear here. This is called playing the long game and doing it correctly. Okay? Because the implications of RFK Jr. coming in here, I know there were a lot of people in the MAHA community that were like, why isn't he doing anything? He's not doing it quick enough. Why hasn't he banned all vaccines? That's not the way you do it, guys. That's not the way you do it. This is all intentional to play the long game. When you talk about the risks of Tylenol, that naturally opens the conversation to vaccines and the cycle that they create. I saw this posted by Dr. Peter McCullough, and I thought that it was very, very helpful in explaining this. Okay, you've got all these kids; they're very little, and you hear these stories about them walking and talking, saying words, making eye contact, and then they get their vaccines, and then all of a sudden the light goes out and they're gone. And these parents sometimes don't get them back. This is why they get their vaccines. They get a fever. The doctor says, take Tylenol. Tylenol depletes glutathione, which is this says weakens defenses. So like glutathione is how you detox things as well in your body. It helps with that. And then once that happens, they have the developmental regression. They get, swelling. They get inflammation in their brain. I mean, they get all sorts of stuff that we now call autism. But that's how that happens. So to talk about Tylenol is one piece of the puzzle. But if you think that this administration doesn't understand what they are doing, I would say all you have to do is watch this messaging in the press conference. Tylenol was one moment where they said, hey, there are risks to this. Probably don't take it if you're pregnant. But he also sprinkled in some tidbits in there. He says he doesn't think that there should be mercury. He doesn't think there should be aluminum in vaccines. He said no mercury, no aluminum, separate shots, spaced out. He said, I don't think that babies should get Hep B at birth. Babies should not get the Hep B vaccine at birth. And by the way, he didn't say don't take it away, or he didn't say take it away. He didn't say don't give them access. He just said, I don't think they should get it at birth. Maybe at 4, I think was the number that he used. The fact that we have a presidential administration that is saying these things is the biggest advancement on MAHA and vaccines of any presidential administration. Trust me, they are playing the long game, because here is what else President Trump mentioned as just, I promise you guys, this was a shout out. This was a sprinkle of like, guys, we know what we're doing. We've got to back our way into this strategically so that it sticks. Because if we do it the wrong way, people are going to reject it. We have to do this the right way. Because here's what else President Trump had to say at this press conference.
Since 2000, autism rates have surged by much more than 400%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them, this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000, and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none.
So, of course, you have RFK like, all right, the attorney in me wants to make sure that we correctly state there are some studies that have been done. But Trump mentioning the Amish community studies that exist means they're awake on this. They understand what's happening, but they also understand you can't just upend the entire system. You have to do this the right way. But there was another point that stuck out to me in President Trump and RFK's press conference was that President Trump gave this was a personal anecdote. So you would, if you're looking for science in this particular clip, you won't find it. But what you will hear is a president who has seen firsthand, who can tell you a story from many years ago that clearly affected him and stuck with him on the topic of the potential disastrous side effects of vaccines in kids. Watch.
I had a woman who worked for me, a beautiful, wonderful woman, worked in Trump Tower, and she had the most perfect child, beautiful, just perfect. And I remember this little blonde-haired boy running around the lobby of Trump Tower, so healthy and so vibrant. And I said, that's great. And one day I came in and she was crying, her eyes out, behind the counter. She worked at the front desk. She was crying her eyes out. I've never, as much as I've ever seen anyone distraught, she was. I said, are you okay? What happened? My boy, I've lost my boy. What does that mean, your boy? My boy, you know him, sir. You've seen him grow up. He was so beautiful. And I took him for a vaccine, sir. And he developed this unbelievable, I think she said 107, 108. It goes well beyond when this happens. It goes up to 106, 107, 108. We hear 105 and you're in trouble, but it just goes up to a level that you never hear about, but it goes up very high. And they get fried. She said, I took him, he developed an unbelievable temperature. And I've lost him, sir. He's gone. And then I saw the boy. It was so tragic to see. That was the following day. After the vaccine. And I've seen it 2 other times, and I think 3 other times, but 2 other times, where they go to the doctor and they get the vaccine, they get the shot. The kid is, badly hurt. Let's be nice, badly hurt. And just do it. Break it up into 5, break it up into 4, break it up into 3 if you have to, but go to the doctor 4 times instead of once, or 5 times instead of once. There's no downside at all. And break up MMR, break it up. It's practically a known fact that if you break it up, you're not going to have a problem.
I can't believe we are here. It literally moved me to tears yesterday. Stephen can attest to this. I was literally moved to tears watching this because my good friend Andy Wakefield, who, was that guy, that doctor in the UK who said maybe we should look at the MMR vaccine because I'm seeing a lot of, I've gone through his story. I'm seeing a lot of patients that are all coming in with similar issues that are autistic, and all of these moms are saying the same thing. And I'm not saying vaccines cause autism. I'm not saying MMR causes autism. I'm saying we should look at that. And also, why should we just do the combo vaccine if there are some questions? Maybe let's just do separate shots. That's all he said. And the man lost his medical license for it and was completely demonized. And now we have a president in 2025 who is coming out and saying all those same things. And we're actually doing the work to look at that. I genuinely cannot believe that we are living in this timeline. It is so inspiring that, like, I really honestly, I was scared that the medical industrial complex could not be dismantled. And now I have real hope. I have real hope. And what I saw last night was an administration who absolutely understands what is really going on, who absolutely understands what is at play here, and who is ready to do the work, and they don't care what you call them. And if these crazy, mentally deranged, white, leftist women want to take Tylenol, oh man, you really owned Donald Trump. I mean, you could be harming your fetus, but let's be real. You might just abort it later anyway. So I guess what does it matter? What do you care, I guess? I mean, these people are psychotic. But I am so encouraged. I am so encouraged that I don't want anyone to be discouraged from this Tylenol announcement. I think that this is an administration that is awake and understands it. Which, by the way, now also, not only are they taking Tylenol to own Donald Trump, the left Democrats are now saying autism doesn't need to be cured. It's fine. It's okay. Autism doesn't need to be cured. Really? I don't know. Why don't you say that to the parents who have completely dependent adults because as children, because they can't wipe themselves, they aren't toilet trained, they aren't verbal, they will literally never hold a job in society. That's the dirty side of autism. You guys want to be cutesy about autism doesn't need to be cured. Look at Elon Musk. Well, there's an overwhelming amount of parents who have children that they will always have to care for because of autism. I'd love for you guys to go say that to these parents' faces. Why don't you go look at the amount of money that we're going to have to spend in all of these homes or hospitals, because these parents are going to die and those adults will need assistance. And those are medical needs that this country will then have to pay for because nobody wants to talk about what's causing autism. Now, finally, we have an administration who is, and I am really, really excited about it. In fact, I'm going to take a break, and then I want to talk to a doctor. I'm always like, okay, fine, don't take it from me. I'm not a doctor. I understand. Let's talk to a doctor about the new Tylenol findings and this press conference and potential other causes for this autism epidemic. First, I want to thank our sponsor, Relief Factor. So Relief Factor is there for those of you who, you might just be old. Maybe you've reached the age where things hurt. Maybe you were in a car accident like I was many years ago. And as a result of that, I had a bunch of, I still have them, protruding discs. And it doesn't feel good. Let me tell you, it does not feel good. Try Relief Factor if you've, for whatever reason, neck pain, knee pain, back pain, whatever it is. Try Relief Factor. It's an all-natural anti-inflammatory, which, again, not a doctor, but I can tell you that oftentimes the root cause of your pain in your body, if you're having those aches and pains, is the inflammation. So if you can solve the inflammation, it's not going to be a Band-Aid. It's going to be an actual relief. Go try that 3-week QuickStart. It's $19.95, so less than $1 a day to see if you could live better every day. ReliefFactor.com is where you can find it. That is ReliefFactor.com. Joining me now is Dr. Andrew Zhivets. He's a member of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons and trained in, tell me if I have this right, doctor, neuroalgorithmic assessment of neuroimaging.
That's what I did my master's work in, yes.
Okay. So I saw some of what you were posting on social media, and I want to get your feedback. How do you feel, you being much brighter than me? I couldn't even hardly say what you got your master's in. So you being a lot brighter than me and the expert on the subject, What say you about this press conference? What were you expecting? What did you like? Were you encouraged on this? And I will just state for the record, for the audience, I have absolutely no idea if you're going to disagree with me or not. So you might, and that's okay. I want to hear from you. So what do you think about all this?
Look, I think that there's, it's always a complicated discussion, and I think that there are positives to take away and that there are negatives to take away. And I don't think that everybody's going to be happy. I think first and foremost, it's excellent that Tylenol got called out in general. Look, the body naturally produces a fever for a very specific purpose, right? And that is to enhance your immune system, to increase your white blood cell production, and to weaken pathogens, right? So stopping fevers, I heard Dr. Marty Makary say it could prolong illness. Yes, of course, it can prolong illness. So it is also one of the leading causes of overdose and death in this country and liver failure. So I'm very happy to see Tylenol being brought into the discussion and to stop that, and the association with autism. Although I would say with the autism, the issue is it's conflation in some ways. When you have Tylenol ingestion, you have it for a reason. Either you have a pathogen or you have an illness or something like that. So there's always this underlying confounding factor of Tylenol. But I don't think pregnant women should be taking it. Now, to step into the vaccine discussion, I think you're going to find that a lot of people are quite upset by this because they would prefer that the truth simply be told. And the truth is that we do know that vaccines are causing a significant amount of damage. And it's not just autism, right? That's the question is framed around autism because that's the really big button topic. But it's chronic variable immunodeficiency, it's eczema, it's asthma, it's autism, it's other neurocognitive issues like ADHD and things of that nature. So I think that while this will open the doorway for more studies to be done on that, we are seeing that there's over 100 million vaccines given to children in a year. 25,000 children are vaccinated with COVID every single day. So I think that many of us would prefer if vaccines were halted right now. Yeah. And I think that would actually be the prudent thing to do at this point.
So I'm glad that you said that because I hear from a lot of people in the MAHA community, if we could use those terms, and they're like, I'm mad because they haven't done it more quickly. Like they haven't done this as quick as I would like, and I understand that, but I also worry that if they were to just say like, okay, we're halting all vaccines, that people would reject it more because they weren't led there in like a more, I don't know, a way where they could maybe start looking into it a little bit more. Like I put up an infographic in the previous segment, and I saw this from Dr. Peter McCullough, and I really liked the way that it explained it because it's like, okay, here's why Tylenol is only part of the problem because you have the vaccine, you have the fever. The doctor stupidly says, just take Tylenol, and then it depletes your glutathione. And then that could potentially be so I'm just saying like maybe the Tylenol could lead them to the other things because he also said in this press conference, he said, no, they didn't want Hep B given at birth, which was huge to me. They said he referred to the Amish study. He said he thought all the shots should be spaced out. And then he said no mercury and no aluminum. And I was like, holy cow, they are at least saying these things. If they could actually potentially set the stage to do them, that would be huge.
No, I think that this is actually huge. I think this is a moment of gravity within this movement. We know that aluminum is toxic at 100 micrograms per liter. We know that a baby has about a quarter of a liter of blood, and they receive anywhere from between 125 to 750 micrograms of aluminum per dose of a vaccine. So that's 10 to 30 times the toxic dose of aluminum in a child that doesn't have a well-developed blood-brain barrier with an adjuvant and excipients like polysorbates, which increase permeability at the blood-brain barrier. What I'm trying to point out here is that we know a lot of the science behind how vaccines cause neurological inflammation, by how a lot of this damage is done. These aren't things that necessarily need further settling. There is a robust amount of data that's out there already. So I think that, when some people like me, who I have no political sway, and I'm not a politician, so I don't have to play those those political kind of games and dance around these kinds of topics. I can just take the purist view and say, no, we should stop vaccines today. Now, I'm afforded that in a comfortable position because I'm not a political figure. So I can say that. But at the end of the day, I do think that there's a lot of gravity to this situation. I think that not a lot of people, if you would have asked anybody 5 years ago whether this was going to be discussed, it would blow people's minds, right? We went from 5% vaccine hesitancy to 5% in 2020, to 35% in 2023, to 65% in 2025. So, I mean, it's just skyrocketing. And I agree that some people need to be fed this information slowly, but because of the position I am in, I can say that over 100,000 children are diagnosed with autism alone. We're not talking about any of the other issues with vaccine. 100,000 a year. If we pulled the plug on vaccines today, we save all those kids. Mm-hmm. If we pull the plug today, we save a lot more life. And for me, that's the idea: is the reduction of morbidity and mortality of our children. Yeah. And the sooner we get that done, the better.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, I'm like, in a perfect world, we would just, like, the government would stop telling people to vaccinate their children at all. But I understand why they're kind of playing the long game here. So let me ask you this, Doctor, while I have you. What other factors do you think that we should be looking at when it comes to the autism epidemic? Or do you think that it is just purely vaccines? Because I know a lot of people who are like, well, I didn't get my child vaccinated and they still ended up with autism. I personally believe that there are other environmental toxins that we can talk about as well when we talk about the autism epidemic.
They're just like anything else. It is almost never one singular thing, right? Autism is a complex discussion. It's a complex pathology. Whether or not pregnancy-related acetaminophen dosing is something that's related to autism, perhaps, right? It does decrease glutathione. It does perhaps cause some difference in vascular supply and things of that nature. Things that a mother does while she's pregnant, whether that be the food that she ingests, like high fish diets like mercury, whether it be medications that she's on, right, such as SSRIs or antipsychotics or anti-epileptics that can start to alter neurotransmitters, right, like GABA, serotonin, and that disrupts neural architecture and neural development, disrupting the microbiome. There's all sorts of things that can be associated with a greater risk or a greater propensity or a more sensitive brain of the child. But I think the lion's share of issues happens after birth, right? We don't generally see children diagnosed with autism until at the earliest 2 years old. And usually they have normal development up to that pattern, up to that time. And we see them averagely diagnosed around 5 for boys, around 8 for females, and up to 10 years old on average for just any individual. So there's always insults that are happening after the birth. And that would relate to early antibiotic use. That would relate to the high dosing of vaccines. That would relate to things like acetaminophen use. During vaccination, some doctors even say that you should dose Tylenol before the vaccines and then after to control fevers. So, I mean, I think that there's a very large array of things that are likely contributing factors to this. But at the end of the day, I do believe that vaccines are the lion's share. And again, there's many pathways with that as well. A lot of people will talk about mercury and they will talk about aluminum. And I think that those play a huge role. We see aluminum deposition in the brains of Alzheimer's and autism. But things like the MMR shot, which are famously known for causing developmental regression, encephalitis, and neurological inflammation, have no aluminum and they have no thimerosal. Right. So there's other factors at play. And we could, on a longer segment, perhaps we can go into some of the immunology and the biochemistry around that. There's other pathways that make sense. But I say all this to paint the picture. This is an exceptionally complex topic, and it always will be.
Yeah. But man, I'm really encouraged. I'll leave you with this, Doctor. I honestly did not think that I would see anyone in the government saying these things about vaccines for at least another 3 decades. I really was not prepared for it to happen this quickly. And then COVID happened. And there were a lot of people that woke up to the game that they were playing. Dr. Andrew Zhivets, I appreciate your time so much. I highly recommend you guys go follow him on social media. I retweeted, I think, but I will if I haven't. But you got good stuff and you know what you're talking about. So I appreciate you. I'd love for you to come back on.
All right. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you. It's always nice to hear a doctor who isn't just regurgitating what they're spoon-fed by all of these government institutions. Critical thinkers. We need more of those even in the medical community. All right, we've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Welcome to the show. We have Jaco Booyens. It's been too long, my friend.
Way too long.
Way too long. Of course, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Jaco Booyens Ministries, which can people go buy that shirt? That's a nice looking shirt.
You know what? I was in the office and I filmed some things. I just did a shout out to Charlie because he worked out. And Faith, Family, Freedom is one of our slogans. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you can get this shirt, Faith, Family, and Freedom at helpjbm.org. Just go there. info@helpjbm.org. Thank you,
I love
Sarah.
it. Yeah, of course. No, that's great. And then also Eric July, Blaze TV contributor and founder of Ripaverse, ripaverse.com, Ripaverse Comics. Go. I was looking to see if you've got your merch too.
Can't get any more, but yeah,
we did not coordinate.
Yeah.
So funny.
I like it.
Yeah. Well, you can't get that there anymore, apparently, but you can go check out Ripaverse Comics over at ripaverse.com. By the way, you can find me at AmericanBeautyBySarah.com. Huge Lips is the color that I'm wearing today. You can find it over there. So, did you guys see President Trump going to the UN to deliver his speech, and they had this General Assembly, and it was just all of these. I obviously didn't watch the whole thing, but all of what I was seeing, it was kind of a wild day. So first you had President Trump who started to walk into the building and the escalator. I feel like someone just pushed a button and stopped it, because as immediately as him and Melania walk on, it just stops. And they're like, what do we do? Melania, of course, makes the good decision. You know what? I'm just going to keep walking because this is really awkward and there are a lot of cameras taping us. And then after that, when he started speaking, his teleprompter failed, which was wild. And then he just called the people out for the teleprompter failing during his speech. Watch.
I ended 7 wars, dealt with the leaders of each and every one of these countries, and never even received a phone call from the United Nations offering to help in finalizing the deal. All I got from the United Nations was an escalator that on the way up stopped right in the middle. If the First Lady wasn't in great shape, she would have fallen, but she's in great shape. We're both in good shape. We both stood. And then a teleprompter that didn't work. These are the 2 things I got from the United Nations: a bad escalator and a bad teleprompter. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So it was really wild watching all of that. Are they trolling him? It seems strange that an elevator or an escalator would be working until President Trump steps on it, and then it just comes to a halt. But he had some rather spicy moments in there. Let's go ahead and play first President Trump talking about what is the purpose of the UN at this point. Watch.
What is the purpose of the United Nations? The UN has such tremendous potential. I've always said it. It has such tremendous, tremendous potential, but it's not even coming close to living up to that potential. For the most part, at least for now, all they seem to do is write a really strongly worded letter and then never follow that letter up. It's empty words, and empty words don't solve war. The only thing that solves war and wars is action.
I mean, he's just saying what we're all thinking, is he not? He went super hard here too. I may play it, but I want to get your quick thoughts first. But talking about how much the level that they are funding all of these illegals coming to our country. It's like, you guys are spending all of this money just to import illegals into our country. What are we actually spending money on that's doing any good? You know, the UN was supposed to be for, like, he's like, helping prevent wars, but we're not even doing any of that anymore. So why are we spending all of this money? And why is the United States always the one that they expect to pay way more than anyone else? So really great moments, I felt like, from Trump today on the UN.
Yeah, look, it's not called the United Nothing for no reason. Firstly, you gotta love the man. Just the humor, the raw, natural.
Funny.
He'll take any moment, go, escalate, but hey, my wife's in great shape. I mean,
I'm in great shape too.
I'm in great shape too. Yeah, look, it's so real. It's just refreshing in a way, that's the leader of the free world. It's refreshing. It's just such good turnaround for what he was hit for in the past. He's not presidential enough. It actually is his best quality.
Yeah.
That he's just a real guy. His grandpa, as Kai said, hey, you don't know him as grandpa. Back to the UN, knowing, because I sit on a council there in human trafficking, and I can tell you they do zero, absolutely zero. He's right. It's letters, it's memos, it's studies, it's think tanks, it's always universities. Mm-hmm. Always this university, Cambridge is running a study, or this university in London is running a study, and it goes nowhere. And I'll tell you, for instance, we got the Soccer World Cup coming here in 2026, and we have busted down the door saying, hey, can you come help the U.S.? You're going to import 10 million visitors, Europe, FIFA, into our country, hopping from Mexico to the U.S. to Canada, back and forth, and we've got a border crisis already, and they do zero. So he's right. Good for him to stand on their turf, because that's their turf, although there's the United Nations in New York, but that's their turf.
Sure.
And say, hey, I'm going to speak the way I speak to my people, because I'm for America. I'm America first. And it's just great. Now, will they listen? I don't think they listen to words. I think they don't listen to words. When they listen is when he says, pay your fair share.
Exactly right. Yeah, that's the only thing I think that is going to make any movement with all of these leaders who find themselves. I think, Eric, I want to get your thoughts on this, but I want to do two things. Number one, I want to make the point, kind of to add to what you're saying, Jaco, is that people think, they used to say, oh, he's not presidential because he speaks like this, because they're used to these stuffy politicians who are not relatable and who consider themselves, way too seriously. And I think that it's like a very human quality that he has to just like, listen, I'm the president and I can make these decisions and I'm damn good at my job. But at the end of the day, I am just one of you. I am just like you. Things happen, I'll point them out. The escalator failed. What the hell? Like, it's just a very relatable quality I feel like he has that people are not used to, because they all consider themselves to be way too elite to have some sort of a, funny moment or anything like that, or to just speak candidly. They feel like they can't do that. But I want to play one more clip here to your point, Jaco. He was very direct with these other countries and how bad things have gotten in their own countries as well. Watch.
It's time to end the failed experiment of open borders. You have to end it now. See, I can tell you, I'm really good at this stuff. Your countries are going to hell.
I'm really good at this stuff. Let me tell you what's happening in your land. You're literally going to hell because you don't have Jesus, you don't love God, and you are importing radical Islam like crazy across your mat borders.
Yes!
That's called going to hell.
I mean, it really is.
That's not hyperbole.
It's not.
I don't know that he knows he's actually speaking spiritually.
Yeah.
But literally, London is going to hell.
Well, okay, so he mentions London specifically with all of the Muslims and Sharia law. We'll play that, and then Eric, I want to get you to weigh in here.
Europe is in serious trouble. They've been invaded by a force of illegal aliens like nobody's ever seen before. Illegal aliens are pouring into Europe. Nobody's doing anything to change it, to get them out. It's not sustainable. And because they choose to be politically correct, they're doing just absolutely nothing about it. And I have to say, I look at London, where you have a terrible mayor, terrible mayor. And
it's
been so changed. Now they want to go to Sharia law. but you're in a different country. You can't do that.
It's like, I mean, I understand we don't live there, but I also have eyeballs, and I've seen all of what's happening in the streets of London and all of these other places in Europe. So it's like he's just telling the truth.
Yeah, my co-host Az is obviously based out of the UK, Rubin the Silverback, and we talk about this all the time and how his country's going to hell, as Trump eloquently put it. And it's the truth. Like, it is interesting to see someone at that stage. You know, you mentioned this leader that's looking them in the eyes, essentially in front of them, and just telling them about themselves, right? Yep. And one thing that he notes, he talks about the political correctness of addressing certain issues and why that really is why none of these things get resolved. It's the truth all around the world. It's the truth in our country as well, where demographics is like a thing that nobody wants to acknowledge, or rather, if you do acknowledge it, people would rather not be called racist or something of that nature, rather than actually address their problem. And it shouldn't even be one of racial like connotation. It's not even necessary. It's culture, and the cultures are incompatible with yours. Yeah. And therefore, you're just ensuring that there's going to be conflict among people. That's just the facts of the matter. And what we've had is world leaders. We've had people in our own country act as if that's just not the case. And I don't know if it's a case of just being sheer evil. I think that's part of it. Or maybe they're shielded from a lot of the consequences. They don't live in these areas at all. At least they don't spend enough time there to see when these communities end up getting ran into the ground. That true impact is felt by everyday Americans, right, on different sides of the political spectrum. They don't really feel that, so it's very difficult for them to grasp. So they get the luxury of speaking like an idealist about certain issues, which is why the kumbaya open borders thing is attractive. I'm saying this as a libertarian. Sure. It's attractive to people to speak about, because it does put on this front, or allows you to pontificate, allows you to act as if you're high and mighty, because you're like, I want all this togetherness. But that's just not the world. That's not reality. And we're not all the same culturally. And they need to understand that. And not only do they need to understand that, we need to understand that. The fact that we have sitting congressmen and women essentially pledging allegiance to foreign countries, or so more so prioritizing them over their own, that should tell you everything. And that doesn't even make sense. You are inviting conflict. You are ensuring conflict. And it's not going to be until stuff blows up in people's faces when they finally concede. Literally, maybe. I'm using that in both literal and a figurative. Metaphor, metaphorically, figuratively, all of the things. Because that, unfortunately, is going to have to happen for people to wake up out of this spell that they're in, where they look at the world for what they want it to be and not for what it actually is. But yes, good on Trump for approaching it that way as far as the UN, which shouldn't even be a thing as far as I'm concerned. It's just money. We're funneling a lot of money to various, organizations or be it through these various treaties and so forth, and we're getting the crap end of the stick.
Yep. All right, let's go ahead and let's take a quick break. We'll be right back. Well, Jimmy Kimmel is apparently scheduled to go back on air tonight. ABC decided to fold and allow him back. But this is a very interesting saga, because Sinclair and Nextstar both have already said these were the affiliates that own. I mean, Sinclair owns dozens. Nextstar owns like 30 stations, I think. Sinclair owns 40. Nextstar owns 30 affiliates. And they're all still saying, we're still going to preempt Jimmy Kimmel when he returns to ABC. We are not going to air him on our networks. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. There's the map where all of the blackouts will be for Jimmy Kimmel. This may take his viewers down to like 5, actually. So, I mean, they were only at 10 is the answer there. But this has been it'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because not only is Nextstar and Sinclair saying we're not doing this, but you have apparently the rumor mill is that all of these workers behind the scenes at Jimmy Kimmel are saying, if he apologizes, we will walk out, because we stand by his statements and we won't appreciate it if he apologizes, because he meant it when he said that. And so if he apologizes, we'll walk out. But the affiliates are not airing him. because they want to see some humility. So I personally love this. I'm just watching it with popcorn.
Yes, with extra salt and just all the goodies, right? A little bit of cheese on there. Because when the left implodes, and it's self-implosion, because there's a rotten evil in its core.
Yeah.
And ultimately...
And they've radicalized all of these people.
Absolutely. And now it bites them.
Mm-hmm.
And I love it when it bites them in their pocketbook. That's why I said Trump hit them in the pocketbook, right? So when you start seeing they lose billions of dollars and all of a sudden, and there's just the sweetness of it that they would air Charlie's memorial on the very network where he was supposed to be on. Let's see. So walk. If he apologizes, walk. Even if he apologizes, he shouldn't be on air because the man's not funny.
He's not funny.
You know, when I came to the U.S., I'll be quick. You come from another country and you don't know how sitcoms work and these things. So I did the row. I went with 2002, and I'm sitting there going, wait a second, there's a clap card?
Yeah.
Wait a second, they tell people to clap? Wait a second, the audience is completely artificial. You stand outside in a line.
Yeah.
They ask you, are you going to clap or not? Are you a Jimmy fan? Well, not really. You don't go in. You go in, and all the radicals are left in. It's so loaded. It's all fake. It's all fabricated. None of it is real. He's not funny.
Yeah.
These guys aren't funny. They shouldn't be on air.
Yeah. Well, that's why I was just like, it's not an FCC issue, guys. ABC, my opinion, ABC was probably looking for a reason to can him because if Colbert was ranked #1 and they still were losing money on him, Jimmy Kimmel has to be losing ABC money.
So they're probably bacon.
Right. So they're probably like, boy, if we could use this as an excuse to can him, that would be great because that would free up a lot of our budget.
That's what I assumed happened. That was what I called when it first broke, that they were using this more so as an excuse. It had less to do with the pressure by way of the FCC. Well, at least at minimum, we know that I mean, you can't bring it. If you were scared of the actual pressure, then you wouldn't be bringing them back. So now we know that part of the story is horse crap. Yeah. So I lean towards they were just trying to look for an excuse, and that was their out. Now I know they lost a bunch of, supposedly, shares or whatever as far as the value. I don't know what happened with all that monetarily that I guess try to incentivize them to bring him back. Not exactly sure what happened of that. What I do know is that now they're kind of in this, it's not just that they're going to eat each other. They know that they don't have support of guys like on our side of the aisle. They never had that in the first place. Who the hell is one of us are watching Jimmy Kimmel? Anyway, so with the adjustment, Disney is in this kind of odd place where they have to cater to this market of weirdos, and it's not that many. They're loud, but it's not that many of them. Mm-hmm. And they have to really cater to this market of weirdos and what they want because they, for the most part, lost a lot of success from a lot of like money and support from us. So to me, they're just doing what they feel like is best. And now they're in this odd situation where you got Nextstar, you got Sinclair, and they're like, look, man, go screw yourself. Yep. You got to at least apologize, which is what they had said. They said they'll air it, but he can come back, but they need to apologize. He needs to apologize. I don't know if he's going to do that. And if he does do it, got this behind the scenes. They're going to want out. So this is like a perfect storm of just absolute craziness, man.
They'll replace the crew. I think he's going to apologize, but it won't be sincere because that's not what is in his heart. It's fabricated. I think he's back there because of fine print in contracts. Okay. That's why he's back. Maybe. It's fine print. It's his legal team saying, great, let him go. Let him go, but we're coming at you for 60, 100, 150 million. You always have some ambulance chasing wicked lawyers, and it's fine print in the contract because it's the first thing that his team responded with. Right when he was candid, like, we're going to sue, we're going to contracts. So there's fine print in the agreements, and he's been there a long time.
Yeah.
So it's not just one contract. You know how these things work. It's contract on contract, and there's contingencies, and there's, I mean, you know this world better than any of us. And so, yeah, so I think he's there because of fine print, not because they want to, because I agree with you. I think they wanted him gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that the unfortunate byproduct for him, unfortunate for us, is that I think this show will probably be the highest ratings that he has had in a while. But the fortunate part, that'll tank immediately.